the meeting for the Water and Sewer Compliance Review Board to order. And I'm going to turn it right over to Public Works here for a presentation.
Thank you. Okay. Good evening and thank you for attending. At this time, the Compliance Office will be providing an overview of LCA's performance with some of the required standards of the lease. This review is intended to cover the time period from January 2016 to present. Our office will provide the 2016 annual report at the board's meeting in May. The primary focus of this meeting is to update the board on the city's water and sewer rates. Lisa Gross, LCA's Chief Executive Officer, will present that information after our short presentation. One of the highlights of this year is one of the improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, which is currently presented on that slide. This is the digester cover. If you look at the lower photo, it shows an 80-foot digester cover being lifted and being placed on top of the digester tank. And just to give you an aspect of what it weighs about 51 tons. So. Okay. The chart provided in this slide are limits for the wastewater treatment plant. It lists the effluent quality requirements for both the NPDES permit and the performance standards outlined in the lease. I'd like to note that no parameters were exceeded. The wastewater treatment plant's NPDES permit is currently in its third draft. It was posted for public comment in October 2016, and a joint response letter from both the city and LCA was submitted to the state. To date, we have not received any response. Additionally, the PADEP performed an on-site inspection of the wastewater treatment plant in August 1st, 2016. DEP's report indicated no violations. Collection system maintenance is an important aspect of the lease, which focuses on two primary concerns: prevention of surcharges and sanitary system overflows. These maintenance procedures include preventing blockages and minimizing extraneous flows. As a requirement of the lease, at least 55,000 linear feet of collection system is to be televised annually. Between January 1st and September 30th, 2016, approximately 127,000 feet were completed. Within that same time period, LCA made regular maintenance repairs to the collection system, which included 26 manholes, 31 trenchless, and 7 excavation repairs. At this time, I'll turn it over to Angela, and she'll provide an update for the filtration plant and
one highlight that occurred at the drinking water treatment plant, actually, Mr. Laurel could probably teach us about this. The PADEP conducted a filter plant performance evaluation in August, between August 11th and 13th of 2015. We actually didn't get the formal report until this September 2016. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Does that look familiar, John?
Yes, it does. Did quite a few of those over the years.
When we're talking about drinking water, this is much nicer than the last slide.
In a filter plant performance evaluation, individual filters are assessed for their capability of producing finished water turbidity below 0.1 NTU and particle counts less than 25 counts per milliliter. When filters are continuously performing at levels of 0.1 NTU or less, they are providing the most effective barrier to the passage of cysts or other microorganisms. This graph shows that the filter effluent turbidity on filter number 1 remained below that 0.1 NTU at 0.0287 throughout the evaluation. quote, based on the historical turbidity data, the operation of the plant during the evaluation, and the operator's proactive attitude towards continually improving the operation of the plant, the department provided the LCA WTP with an overall commendable performance rating for its ability to remove Giardia cyst and Cryptosporidium oocyst. And this is the highest rating that a water plant can obtain. A few weeks ago, there was a lot of concern about lead and copper in the drinking water in residents' homes. So I just wanted to provide an update. Regulated lead and copper monitoring of 50 Tier 1 sites occurred from June through September of 2016. Those results were submitted to DEP this October 2016. A representative sample pool is tested to ensure that the drinking water is not corrosive, causing metal to leach from household plumbing pipes or fixtures. So this is a sampling that occurs within residents' homes that are qualified. And I'm happy to report that no action levels were exceeded. Distribution system, leak detection. Of 325 miles of pipe in the distribution system, 110 miles must be checked for leaks annually. Between January 1st and September 30th, 2016, 178.49 miles of pipe have been surveyed. 18 repairs were made, which equates to a savings of approximately 255,000 gallons of water per day. Valves, approximately 8,000 valves are present throughout the distribution system. 1,224 valves must be exercised per year. Between January 1st and September 30th, 1,680 valves were exercised. Fire hydrants, of 1,800 fire hydrants located throughout the city, 900 must be inspected and tested annually. Between January 1st and September 30th, 1,544 hydrants were inspected and exercised. Notices of violation, our office did not issue any NOVs during this time period. Customer service. LCA's Customer Service Center is located at the water filtration plant on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Between January 1st and June 30th, 12,248 calls were received. Of these 12,248 calls, approximately 79% were inquiries about billing or credit card payments. To date, no taste or odor complaints were investigated by the lab. Additionally, LCA is required to conduct customer surveys to measure customer satisfaction. Of 2,415 surveys, 211 were completed and returned. 88.6% of those customers were satisfied or very satisfied. And I believe Lisa will speak on customer service after our presentation. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Jenny for an update on security and major capital projects.
Thanks, Angela. As you can imagine, security is a significant concern to utilities because of the potential health risks to the public. The operating standards require that LCA notify the city of any security breach. On August 23rd of this year, 3 individuals entered the water filtration plant's property and tossed 2 rakes and a chair into the creek. No one witnessed the incident, but it was caught on camera, and an incident report was filed with the police as per the protocols. FYI, on this point, there's an uncompleted works project for security improvements to begin at the wastewater treatment plant in 2017. This is anticipated to be completed, started and completed in 2017. Next, we're going to speak about capital projects. And this will have some resonance with Liesel's report as it relates to rates. Capital projects fall into 2 important categories and are listed separately on the ratepayer's bill. The first are the administrative order projects and the related expenses necessary to respond to the EPA. The projects shown here are the manhole rehabilitation projects. In 2016, 151 manholes were rehabilitated through the lining and frame and cover projects. The above photos, I'm going to explain those now. They're pretty graphic. On the left are manhole linings. The top one shows the before and the second one shows the after. The reason for doing this is it will help to eliminate infiltration. On the right, these photos show the stages of repair to manhole cover and watertight covers. Bottom photo shows the lining after it's been completed, and the material on top is a steel plate. These repairs help to eliminate inflow. Our next, I have it. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, the next capital project that's reflected on the bill, these are not AO projects, but this is our distribution system. And it's a major capital improvement, which is a category within the lease. In order for these charges to be on the ratepayer's bill, they must have an estimated cost in excess of $1 million, adjusted for inflation using the CPIU for urban index. There are two major capital projects improvements approved for inclusion in the 2017 bills. The first is what we're showing here on this slide, the water main replacement project. This is based on requirements in the operating standards to replace 2 miles of pipe per year. The initial focus of this program is to replace spun cast iron pipes, pipes that have been in service for over 100 years, and pipes identified as problematic. They have a history of breaks. In order to accomplish this, there's a pipe prioritization assessment program. And the purpose of that is to identify the mains that need to be replaced using various sources of data, including but not limited to the pipe age, break history, geology, and ground subsidence history. So that's how we come about, or LCA comes about, recommending the pipes to be replaced. This is the 2015 program, which was completed and placed in service, and there was a capital cost recovery program done for it so we could be included on the 17 bills. The Cycle 2 program was 2.1 miles, as we indicated on the slides, in approximately 7 locations throughout the city. They, of note here, they will be ahead of the game, and I meant to calculate the total, but I believe that they're approximately will be 2.5 miles over their exceedance, which is allowing them to take a break here in 17. They're not going to remain idle though, and we're not going to get away with them digging up our streets. In 2017, they're going to embark on the program to work on the inoperable valves. There's about 55 valves in that program, and they're going to work towards completing those all in 1 year. So they'll take a break from the water main replacement, which is perfectly fine, they're ahead, and I believe they'll be picking this back up again in 2018. The second major, in our next slide, the second major capital improvement project listed on the 2017 bills is the motor control centers. The MCCs provide power for equipment use in the dewatering process and for the digesters. The project replaced aging equipment that was installed in the 60s and 70s, and these are well beyond their expected lifetimes. The photo on the right shows the totally enclosed stainless steel structure, which is housing the MCCs. And then the photo on the left will show you the control panels. You'll see how involved they are. There are 7 total MCCs in this project. And that's our completed mini review of the year to date, and we're happy to take questions. Roger?
Why don't we do the whole thing first, and then we'll open it up for questions. Why don't we do it that way?
That sounds good.
All right.
Please, do you want to sit here?
I think.
You want to sit? You want to go there?
Whichever.
Or whatever you're convenient.
Okay.
I'll manage the clicker for you unless you want to.
No, that's fine.
That's what I like, teamwork.
I do have a few slides that are going up. So thank you for having me here tonight. And this is kind of the annual point in time where we talk about rates for for the following year. So a few slides to just show what those will look like.
It's not coming up.
What is the switch windows?
F8 or F2? Okay.
Pick up the confidence. Hey, when are you finished with these? When are you finished with
That's what we did, and then it gives us this screen, so it's in the
Oh,
horizontal.
yeah, they want to go to.
Let there be light.
Yeah, it was function and at the same time. Sorry, Liesl. No problem.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. I mean, it's really not that exciting. No, I don't have any great photos of the sewer pipe on this slide. Mostly just charts and numbers.
If you lower it, would be exciting.
I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you on this one.
Go back.
Back one, yeah. Just a quick review. One more. There you go. In the concession agreement, there are basic structure for how rates are increased, and this is just a quick review. There's two parts to it. The first one is tied to the CPI. It's actually the CPIU for the Northeast region. So, and it's from the period of July 1st to June 30th, and it can be positive or negative. Part 2 is the margin increase, which is 2.5% through the year 2032, and then drops down to 2% beginning in year 2033. So for 2017, the rate change by the formula, part 1 of the CPIU turned out to be 0.8%, and then part 2 is the margin increase, and add those two together, so we have a total rate increase of 3.3% by formula, and that applies to all of the rates that are included in Schedule 3 of the concession agreement. So for the water rates, what I'm showing are really just the standard residential rates that you might expect, which is the majority of the customers here in Allentown. They have either a 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch meter, and are billed quarterly. And you can see the comparison, the 2016 to 2017 quarterly charge. And then below that is the volume charge, going from about $3.18 up to $3.28 for 1,000 gallons.
Sewer?
Yes, yes, sir.
That's like, you say that's the average charge per quarter?
No, that's the fixed charge, and and the fixed charge is based on the size of the meter. So most customers in Allentown have a 5/8 inch meter or a 3/4 inch meter. So the fixed charge is shown in the chart, and then on top of that, there's the volume charge. So if you use no water at all, and you have a 5/8 inch meter, you still pay the fixed charge. It works the same way for sewer.
Sorry.
That's okay. The sewer rates are structured the same way. It's based on the meter size, and the fixed charge is there, whether there's any usage or not. And then there's a flow charge, and that's based on the meter reading that we get. So you can see what the rates are for 2017 shown there. Average or regular normal customer with a 5/8 inch meter would have a sewer fixed charge of $9.29. And the flow charge go from about $2.29 up to $2.37 per 1,000 gallons. So this graph really, or this chart refers to the capital projects that Jenny just reviewed. And these are the projects that were completed in 2015 or 16, depending on the timing, and are now included in the either the capital cost recovery charge or the administrative order fee that goes on top of the bill. On the water side, the water main replacement project, that's cycle 2 that Jenny spoke about, that was completed in the fall of 2015, and just because of the timing, it's now being rolled into the 2017 charge. We do those on an annual debt service basis, so we calculate, based on the total cost, we calculate what an annual debt service payment would be, spread out over a period of time. In this case, it's 30 years. And then use prior usage for the Allentown customer base to calculate what the rate would be per 1,000 gallons. So for that project that was completed, water mains, the capital cost recovery charge is a little less than 5 cents per 1,000 gallons. And I'm showing in all 3 cases there that the municipal signatories do share the cost, and it really just depends on the service arrangement and the service agreements that the city has with each municipal signatory, how that's shared. For the wastewater treatment plant motor control centers, Jenny did a good job of explaining that project, and this is the associated numbers that go along with that. Again, there's a debt service calculation created, and on this particular project, we used 20 years as the useful life of the motor control centers as the basis, and that results in a customer rate of a little less than 3 cents per 1,000 gallons for that project. And then lastly, the administrative order work. This one's a little different because it's really based on this year, it's based on 2 different types of costs. One are the pay-as-you-go costs for the manhole projects that Jenny described, and then and that's about $718,000. And then there's an additional small debt service payment of $76,000 that we're trying to recover in 2017 for the first year of debt service for the $2.5 million bond issue that the city issued this summer, I believe it was.
Yes, this summer.
Okay. So moving forward, that's why you can see where in the column that says period or years, it says 1/20. The pay-as-you-go costs are captured all in 1 year, but the debt service portion of it is going to be a 20-year payback. So the rate is a little bit of a mixed bag this year. Moving forward for 2018 and beyond, what we'll see is the pay-as-you-go portion will go away, and it will all be converted into debt service as the city continues to borrow funding for the major projects that need to happen at the Kleins Island treatment plant. So for the administrative order work that's listed there, $794,000, that relates to a customer rate of a little more than 20 cents per 1,000 gallons. And again, that is shared by municipal signatories. Okay, so the way that the capital cost recovery charges work are that each year the projects are completed, we calculate what the charge is for that project, and then we add it to the prior year's projects that were already completed and approved by the city. So here we can see what the cumulative charge is from 2016 to 2017. Water capital costs now include 2 projects that were completed for a total rate of about 9 cents per 1,000 gallons. Sewer capital projects include 2 projects as well for a total cost of about 5 cents per 1,000 gallons. And then again, the administrative order is calculated every year, so that's the new rate of 20 cents per 1,000 gallons. And then really, I think what's most people are looking at is what does it mean for your bill? And so this is shown as a comparison of 2016 to 2017 for an average total quarterly bill for an average customer. The customers here in Allentown, an average residential customer uses about 12,000 gallons of water per quarter. So we use that basis to compare the 2016 rates to the 2017 rates. And by adding all the pieces together, the fixed charges, the volume charges, the capital cost recovery charges, and the administrative order fee, the rate is going, or an average quarterly bill will go from about $103 to about $108. On an average basis, that's $5.18 per quarter will be the increased annual impact of about $21 for your residential customers. And of course, it will vary depending on how much water the customer uses. And what I'm showing on this chart is only related to water, because that's the data I have easily accessible from the research that Lehigh County Authority typically does. But wanted to show you how the rates in the city division compare to other utilities in the Lehigh Valley. And the comparison here is actually based on a residential customer using 20,000 gallons of water per quarter, which is a little more than what Allentown residents typically do, but that just to make it normalized, you compare apples to apples. And you can see out of 19 water utilities that were surveyed for this, we do this every year, the city division Allentown customers are actually the 4th lowest. So that's still pretty good. I just wanted to spend just a couple minutes talking about customer service enhancements. It is something that's really important to Lehigh County Authority to ensure that the customers are receiving good service and that we have a good rapport with our customers. We've done a few things in the past year related to customer service enhancement. I think we spoke last time about bill payment options and the enhancements there with our website. We do have a more enhanced communication and online presence now than we did 3 years ago. Every year we kind of try to add some new features and look at how to provide more automated type service to the website, because that's really what customers are looking for. We have spent some time working on our tenant and landlord collections process, and as Angela had spoken about water quality issues and lead and copper, those are issues that we routinely try to put out to our customers through our newsletter and our website, and focus on training our employees on how to address customer calls and really provide a higher level of service to our customers. Last bullet is just a piece of information, really, that we have very strong collections performance, 98 to 99%, which is very good. We're very, very happy that we've been able to achieve that, and the shutoffs for non-payment are being processed in a really consistent way, which sends a really strong message to the customer that we need to have good collections performance, but also that we have rules and ways to deal with that, and it seems to be working very well. And then this last slide is just to expand a little bit upon the customer satisfaction survey work that we do. We do survey for overall satisfaction, which we report semi-annually to the compliance office, but also as part of that survey process, we're asking other questions related to our employees' courteousness and how knowledgeable our employees are, and really very pleased to see positive improvements in those areas as well over the past 3 years, and keeping in mind that when the lease transfer happened, we had 0 customer service staff besides a manager come to LCA at that time. We hired everyone off the street, and we've had quite a bit of turnover as well. So really focusing on employee training and growing their knowledge so that they can provide good service is important to us, and you can see that in the results of the survey that we're showing some success there. That's all I have. There was a handout that I think went around, which is just a copy of the rate schedule that is going as a bill insert in the first quarter of 2017. And also on the front of the bill, there's a section where we can put customized messages, and we'll talk about the capital cost, the actual projects that were completed as part of that on the bill itself. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
You guys up here want to go first, or open it up to the public first? How do you want to go? You have questions?
No questions.
I usually like to let the public go first, but if you have questions.
No, I can come back.
All right, well, let's go to the public first. Any questions from the public?
On the rates or what, or anything?
And anything you've heard since we started?
Hey.
Thank you. Number one, is this a meeting of the city council or a meeting of the compliance committee? Compliance.
It's a compliance board.
Board.
Compliance board.
The board.
Yes.
I see there's only one member of the board here, so would that be qualified as a quorum?
There's actually members of the board. The board is comprised of 5, it can be 5. They have 4 sitting, and there are 3 here tonight.
Well, it's gentlemen, there's 2 other.
There's 5 in total possible. There's 1 vacancy. 1 person is absent, right,
You're not
Mr.
the board,
McLean?
you're part of the city, you work in the city. A board is independent, so, and we have 3 members on the board, and there's only 1 member here. And you,
Yes, sir.
The board has 5 members.
Yeah.
Includes
2 of those city council, right?
No, the board is sitting here. The board is comprised of 5 people. Their permanent membership is the chairman of the public.
What are 5 members?
Roger McLean as chair of the Public Works Committee is a permanent, that position is permanent. The
Roger's
only
here, I'll say.
authority is the chair of the Finance Committee, that's a permanent membership. There's 1 appointee by the council, that's, I believe, Mr. Bartol. And then there's 2 appointees by the mayor. 1 is Tinku, who's absent tonight, and the 5th position is vacant currently.
Okay, so if I ask questions, they can relate to the city budget then to the board?
Well, that's to the chair.
Okay, I'm sorry. As you know, Elsie presented a nice presentation, but since we went on this lease, our rates have increased each year. So as you look back, you don't know this was beneficial to the city of Allentown to lease out the water and sewer, because in addition to this, you see a cost recovery charge, administrative order fee, you have sewer cost recovery charge, and then you're going to, next year, you're going to have an $8 million bond repayment on that money they used to buy the leases. I think city council made a big mistake by approving this water and sewer lease, even though I like the way they operate, but it's the cost factor that's involved. If you presented the rates, you could see we're a fourth of water, but with the sewer, when you had both rates together, are we the highest in the country? Which you could be, so the fact was it's really worthwhile what we did. Because I think when we were on city council, Cody and I, we'd have water and sewer rates each year like we have now. And I think this could be a big problem in the future, but this lease that we got repaid. And the next thing is, City of Allentown has an MOU with the LCA. Where does the money go? The general fund for what? That's the question.
That's the services MOU. I think we've spoken about that before.
That's right, but nobody tells me where the money goes.
I believe that money goes into general fund miscellaneous.
What use?
No, I think that's not. I knew we should have had his time.
If I may,
Absolutely.
why did I show up here tonight? It's interesting because he had actually asked a question about it in a right to know about monies that were going into the general fund and where, and that's the whole point of it, as the general fund is that we do not assign specific revenues in the general fund to specific expenditures, because this is intended for general purposes. So the money goes in for general purposes and we spend on it in the aggregate for general purposes.
But where does it indicate, if I read, I looked at the budget, it doesn't seem like, I can pinpoint the MOU money.
The two places where you would find that, the MOU would be under line 6170, which is the miscellaneous. And the monies that we are taking in repayment of the escrow and the administrative order will be under 7122. We are actually working on the November monthly report, which we will be distributing to members of council and having a meeting on it pretty soon. That will go into some detail on that, and we can have that discussion in more detail then.
Well, then who goes late though with this financial report? I want to bring it up because that should have been out already in November for October. And Mr. Chairman can call a meeting, I don't know why. But maybe you could explain more. See, the reason I'm getting at, maybe we could use it, instead of borrowing money from the same, for these projects and all that, which we borrowed 2.5, why we could put a separate line item in the revenue source and use that money to pay for daily use and all these other projects. I think council should look into that. So, you know, when you borrow, it's an additional cost. As you see, when we borrowed the money from for this lease at $221 million, it's gonna cost us $780 million. I mean, it's a lot of money. Who is a banker, he can tell you that's a hell of a cost. When you borrow 221, you gotta pay 780. So I think council should look into creating a separate item and obviously escrow this money instead of borrowing the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman, and I think Councilman Grady wrote that down.
Good evening, Mr. How you doing?
Doing fine, how about you?
Great. I wanted to find out, and I've asked this before, on the water volume charges between the Allentown division and the suburban division, what differences makes our difference in rate of about 90 cents per 1,000 gallons? And I know we brought this up maybe a year or so ago, but there must be a difference somewhere that we pay 90 cents more per 1,000 than the suburban division people.
Okay, Lisa's gonna respond to it, but we need you to get to a microphone so it's good for.
Try not to cough on it.
No,
I'll attempt to answer that. Okay, so the suburban rates are based on cost of service study that we do every 5 years or so often. And they're based on what the costs are to the suburban division. By the way that the bonds were issued for the Allentown division, the revenues for Allentown must be kept completely separate from the revenues that we have in any of our other divisions. And so the rates are based on the actual costs in the suburban division. And on the city side, they're based on the lease, number one, but also the need to recover debt service on the bonds that were issued for the lease, which was $308 million. So we have about $13 million worth of debt service every year that we need to cover through the Allentown rates. That's it in a nutshell.
Sorry, you're putting some debt service in the water volume charges. Is that what I hear you saying?
It's, the rates that we charge to Allentown go into one big revenue, basically one big revenue pool. And from that, we pay our operating costs and we pay our debt service. And we have to have enough revenue to cover both.
I would like to see sometime, somewhere in the next 6 months or so, the breakdown on how you do that, and maybe I can get with you sometime, because we do have other line items here which show debts due to the lease. But if you look at this rate, which goes back to when the lease was signed, Allentown was paying $3.10, and even at that time, the suburban division was much less.
Right.
So let's take out all the charges that from the lease side of it and go back to 2012 and say, why was your water rate so much lower I could maybe say that you're pumping only for the suburban division. I mean, that's a valid, in my estimate, it would be cheaper. You don't have as many customers. But I think when I looked at the value, your customers are almost the same. The whole western suburban division to Allentown, you might have
A little bit less.
10,000 less. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean,
and I think.
how did you make it so much cheaper? I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. How did Western Division have the volume so much cheaper?
I really can't speak to how the city set its rates in the past. What I can speak to is the fact that we acquired the lease through a competitive process based on where the rates were and the terms of the lease, which included the escalator. So the value of the lease was based on a financial evaluation of the revenue capacity of the system based on where the rates were at that time. The suburban division is a completely separate financial calculation that's based on the actual cost that LCA bears to pump water, buy water, pay our employees and all of that, and it is a true cost of service type of rate study. The Allentown side is more of a calculation of the rates based on the lease that is intended to cover debt service.
We should really look into that because I think there's some gray areas in there. And because when I look at Allentown, we might have 100 houses in within a 500-foot distance. Suburban might have one house within a 500-foot distance. So if we're looking at maintaining water lines and everything else, pumping capacities, I still think we should be as cheap or not cheaper in one respect. Now, when you're going into debt service and you're going to replace lines and things like that, that's a different situation. But when you're looking at only water volume, and that should be a line item just on the cost of providing that volume of water, pumping it, you can throw certain things in there.
Yeah, I would agree that there should be some economies that are, applicable to both systems because it's the same water and it's in some cases even the same employee base that are doing some of the work. I think what the big issue for us is really the debt load, where on the suburban side, we have only about $30 million of debt, but on the city side, we have about $340 million of debt. It's just a completely different financial picture for
Right,
us.
and this started before that. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
310 goes back to, in 2010, we had a 5% rate increase. In 2012, we had a 4.9, almost a 5% rate increase in Allentown.
Right.
And basically why that would happen is another story, but that's how you got it.
Yeah, I
That's
think
the only
it
reason you
has
could
to
take this on, because those rates were increased.
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to do it. But that's a different story. But okay, I want to switch over to the administrative order.
Your time is up.
Well, wait a minute.
Minute or two ago.
Look, you gotta give us 3 and 3 if we, you're cutting us in half, because by doing the
I'm
water
on a
side.
tight ship here, you know that.
I know you're
All right,
gonna
I'll give you one or two
but
questions. I'll give you one or two
You're not letting the
questions.
public do their full 3
The
minutes.
rules
I
are
could've-
3 minutes,
If
yeah.
you would've had 3 minutes on water and 3 minutes on sewer, I would have 6 minutes.
You just wasted a minute explaining. You got, I said, you got a question or two, go ahead.
I mean, hey, I understand you guys want to get out of here just like I do. I'm just trying to understand the CPA order that Dan talked about a month or so ago. And where do we stand on that? Does this board have any input other than listening to what they represent or talk about? I mean, the cost of doing this project goes back to who? Who okays this? City council, LCA?
You talked the administrative order.
The administrative order.
Right.
That's the,
Yeah.
that goes back to us.
And there's no choice on that, right, Mr. Messenger?
No.
There's
Well,
no choice. It
There's
has to be
choices
done.
on, not maybe choices on doing it, but on what you do, there's choices. Because, I mean, when Dan presented a case of possibly putting a 4 million gallon tank down here, I mean, there are choices on that. Maybe you want a 4 million gallon tank out in the suburban division at their cost. Maybe you want one in Emmaus, maybe you want one in Whitehall. But maybe before you do that, you want to instrument and find out what's going on. I mean, I don't know. Do we have instrumentation on these lines?
I'm not sure what the lease says on that.
Because it's a whole study, everybody likes to do studies, but I haven't really seen a detailed study. I know he had a consultant in here, but I really didn't see and evaluate what he was talking about. Your consultant that was here that night, I'm not sure what the depth of his consulting was at the time.
The other communities have looked at the cost effectiveness of doing
Dan, I'll let you finish the answer, but we're getting away from what we were here for
It's
tonight.
not part of, just to satisfy,
Yeah.
it's not, it's cost effective to look at doing things at Klein's Island, and everybody contributes pro rata based on what their allocation is.
Yeah.
The other municipalities would basically, we've just had recent meetings to say to them, if you would rather opt out and put in your own equalization tank, you're welcome to do that, but it's not cost effective. That's an option for them, which we basically presented to those communities. It's really not cost effective to have 300,000 gallons there, 400,000 gallons there.
Well, it depends on where the leakage is coming. Are you saying I'm out of order and this is not brought up here? I can bring this up on something else.
Well, the issues that you're talking about, I think we would be negligent if those were not being discussed and reviewed. I'm saying to you that those, all the things you're talking about, we're talking about now looking at peaking factors, who's contributing what, those issues are all being considered relative to the engineering aspects and the cost aspects.
I'm not saying you aren't doing it, I just don't see the transparency that I'm keeping track of what you're doing, and I don't have the information, that's all. I'm not saying you're not doing a technical approach and you're not doing it properly. I'm not advocating.
Well, that's what we had the meeting, I mean, that was the
Right.
whole point of the
Right.
meeting, so, you know what I mean? To basically say this is what we're doing.
When I looked at your talk, and it looked like you weren't really going after the root cause, you were going after a fix. So by putting it in a 4 million gallon tank, that's not the root cause. The root cause, I think, is the leakage of the piping in general, maybe not totally.
And that was the gun they talked about today, about in terms of like what LCA, in terms of repairing, like the projects, for example, the manholes. Those which were done, I think over the past 4 years, I think the number's like 400 and some manholes which were done in the area closest to the Little Lehigh Creek, which show the greatest infiltration. So basically to speak to looking at sources of inflow and infiltration, that manhole project, which I think the totality of that is like $1.4 million over the last 3 years and into the next year, to specifically stop inflow and infiltration into the system. So yeah, are they looking at the root causes? That's, yes. But that's not going to be enough in the time frame.
Part of the root cause is also, you know, a hurricane or a storm that we can't control.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but no.
because this only happened, if I recall the presentation correctly, it
I
only
brought up
happened
6 times,
Well, that's-
6 times in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the cause, but that's not the root cause of the problem. The problem is that we have leaks or something. And I'm trying to find out how they're approaching this particular problem. And basically, when you look at problems like this, I mean, he was talking about 30 million gallons of water per day on average, and you can go to 87 possibly, before you implement some kind of a blending process. I mean, but how do we?
I believe Brian gave an update on what they were doing to those lines to prevent that. I think that's what that
But do
was
we have numbers, do we have
You have
numbers?
some numbers, I think the point that you're missing is that in terms of, there's a deadline in terms of getting this done. And as much as these lines, or they use the term in the industry, they call it creep. So that as you do a certain amount, most of these lines in the city, a lot of them run along the Lehigh. So that as you fix one repair, another one starts. It's a never-ending battle. It's not as though you can just get going. It's not like paying off the debt. You can pay the debt off and eventually get to zero. This is an ongoing situation that you will make 3 steps forward and the system takes 2 steps back. Next year you take 3 steps forward, the system takes 4 steps back. You've got an aging system. These sewer lines are put in segments that might be put in like every 10 feet you have a joint. The potential for them to leak and appreciate when the groundwater rises, these lines become fluidized. So if you can imagine basically a pipeline with a junction or joint every 10 feet. It's not like a water line that's a solid line that's under pressure, you can find the leak. These, particularly the large diameter lines, are put in a very round line so that they can carry what they call diurnal flow. In other words, that line's got to be enough to carry, like in the midnight, there's almost no flow, but yet it's got to be sized large enough that basically when industries are operating, businesses are there, or all the people are doing it, it's large enough to travel by gravity. We have a gravity flow system. So the line pieces themselves, the pipe segments, are 10 to 12 feet in length. Every 10 to 12 feet you have a joint. The potential for leakage is phenomenal. If you think about it, the city had, I forget what the number is, 285 miles of collection line. That's not counting what's coming out of your home.
How much instrumentation you have on this system, basically? Let's say on the 30-inch line that comes down through.
Each of the signatories have lines. Internally in the city,
The city, I'm talking about
in
where
the
do
city,
we
just
have-
at the treatment plant. There are not internal.
There's no
meters.
intermediate.
No.
measurement,
The
like
city
at the
is
pumping
running-
station at Lehigh Park, where you don't have a full meter in there or something, what we're pumping out of there.
LCA does, but there are not intermediate meters. There will be projects, for example, they did one in 2015, where they took the, I think it's the 12 or 13, what were considered to be the most leak-prone and highest source of I&I, basically metered those, had a company come in, inspect the lines, repair lines, so it's done piecemeal. But to do the whole system, you're never gonna catch up. We're under a consent order. Basically, you have to have this done within a period of time. I just described to you that basically it's impossible to catch up with it, and you're dealing against a time frame. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, I'm asking you how much instrumentation and the approach on how you're trying to effectively tackle this problem. So basically, if you're gonna go to building a big tank, then in other words, I'm trying to say, hey, look, if you're gonna solve this problem, we should go after the root cause if we can. But we first would have to identify which particular main lines are the worst lines and which you might be doing, and maybe you have identified them.
We've
but-
done that, and you can do it.
You can do that on dry days, rainy days, and get a,
You
Get a
do that,
spreadsheet of where you have
and
to
believe me,
find
when you do that, the cost of these programs, we're into the millions. So as part of the program now, we're going to be doing 2 metering and monitoring courses towards the end of the AO. Each of those is $750,000. And I don't take this the wrong way, but I know that when I'm gonna be here, and I'm gonna say to you, we're putting in meters that are gonna be in here for several months, and it's gonna cost $750,000. I'm expecting to see you and don't take this personal, but to see you at the podium saying, oh, you're gonna get some numbers which are just going to apply for this 6 months period. And I say, yeah, that's right. And if we want to do our job, we've got to spend $750,000.
You're absolutely right, you gotta spend money to find out where you can attack the problem, but that's the thing, I mean.
All right, one more question and then we're done. Okay, thanks.
Just a quick clarification.
Wait, we got one more. Unless you want.
No, Rich.
Do I gotta say my name and stuff? You forgot your glasses, Mr. Hunsinger.
Yes, for the
My name is
record.
George Schaller, I live at 622.5 Park Street, and I don't know about all this money and stuff like that, but where I live, I bring my filter, and Julio remembers when the podium was over here, and what are we drinking? Mr. Hanlon doesn't remember that conveniently, but I'll tell you what, I live there in the whole block, I drink my water, it smells like the Jordan Creek. I don't know what planet you use it from, but now it's not only getting my whole house filter, which there's 3 of them at the depot that you can buy at the big box stores, and I take a drill and drill it out on the whole house filter so that I can get more water flow. And I put, because of, you know, we are getting what we are in there, believe me, and I drill it out, and it still is turning can, or whatever you want to say it is, that I've been told it was iron, but we have lead lines in my block. I went down in the hole and sprayed it. But it's turning brown, and now it's even infecting my filter in my refrigerator, that I can't even drink my water. And I gotta
Okay.
replace it more than the manufacturer's specs. And Julio's people are all down on my block. I mean, come on, it's like creek water.
Is there a reason you didn't contact us?
I told them millions of times. I told the mayor, you all know, come on. I've been down to LCY. I live right behind
Okay,
town.
if you're gonna address the questions to us here.
All right, do we want to answer the question, what is it? What is it on my filter, and why is it clogging? Mine is all plastic lines inside.
Can his water get tested? I mean, is that a possibility through the health
Stinks,
department or whatever? Yeah,
and it still
absolutely, because I've
stinks.
never heard a problem like this.
You've never heard that? You don't smell your water when you drink it, Mr. McLean?
My water is absolutely fine. I've been
Well,
drinking it
you
for
live in the
64
Parkway,
years.
that's right. Oh, yeah.
No, I don't live in a parkway.
Behind Trexler Park.
I live in an old farmhouse.
Is there any way we can test it? Because they came in and they put that new electric thing on that, you shine a light, it goes doink, and you get your meter reading. Oh, I called them, they know, and it's the whole block.
I would like for you to call me so that we can get your water tested. We can certainly do that. My
That's-
number's on there. Just give me a call.
Sounds like a solution.
We'll
Or a path to a solution, yes.
Maybe, I doubt it. The whole lease was a crappy deal.
All right, well, that's not what we're here for. Anybody else from the public?
Marty's coming, can you wait?
Nope. Meeting started at 5 and we even started late, so.
Just a quick
Mr.
question.
Greedy.
Actually, just amazing, because today is the anniversary day of, what is that, Lincoln, that water with, Robin, was it, not Minnesota, what was it, Wisconsin?
Oh, you're Michigan.
Michigan.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan. And I'm wondering, you were talking about lead pipes and things earlier. Is that, tell us a little bit more about how is that affecting our water at all?
I think we can go back to Angela, but that was part of the presentation that they
I know,
showed.
it
where all
was. It was, but can you tell me
all
how,
the tests were below,
all of them were below?
and the requirements according to the lease, correct me, are even more stringent than what the state requires. Am I correct in that
I think
statement?
I heard something like.
But anyhow, you guys explain.
Our
But-
regulated monitoring did not exceed any action levels for either lead or copper. We had, that is based on 90th percentile results. So, one resident out of 50 actually had lead levels above that action level in their home, from their kitchen tap. And our health department did follow up with those residents and
Okay, that
make
was
sure
my
that they
question.
had, that they didn't have young children in the house.
That was my question. My question was related to if there is, because you gave me a percentage, but I'm thinking, how do you know who is having a, there's a way to know who's having a high lead level because of the water pipes, right? You can pinpoint to that person, the household,
Right.
system.
Correct, you can follow up with those individual people that may happen to have a problem within their household plumbing.
Okay. That's very
And if you exceed an action level, it would indicate a problem in the system itself. But when you have a few households that have problems within their homes, that's not nothing the water supplier is causing.
Okay, so you can determine by your analysis, my house, for example, George House, has a problem.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. The other question I have was in regards to the administrative order. Administrative order, we just looked at the budget, we borrowed some money, the mayor took some money from the administrative order budget, to kind of balance the city budget. And he said that we just saved too much money. Do you have an amount of, in a 5-year period, or 2017, or how much it would be, or how do we determine?
I think we presented last time. Basically, right now, they're in the process of basically, the city's engineer is going to do a basic conceptual design, which will be completed probably, I believe, by April of this year, where they can try to give you a better idea. Currently now, kind of like, at the uppermost level, they're looking at the expenditure for phase 1 of being in the neighborhood of $25 million for at the treatment plant, and another $5 million, which is strictly collection systems within the city of Allentown. And that's to cover basically flows as they exist now.
$25 million.
That's correct.
Now,
For storms that occur 6 every 10 years, but that's the administrative order that you're operating under.
so that's for, how many years is it? We just took about $3.5 million from the budget because we have an excess amount, according to the mayor, on the fund. Now, for the administrative order, is that, you said that there's a 25-year.
The first,
25
you
years.
borrow the first $2.5 million of that. It would be financed over 20 years.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how the city would borrow. In other words, those capital projects, the first portion of them is going to take place in the next 4 years or so. So whether the city would borrow like 5 million, 10 million, and 8 million, however those numbers work out, or whether they'll borrow it all at one time, that I'm not sure fully.
Now we get a recovery amount.
Yeah, you basically get, the city basically, so you understand how it works, the city borrows the money,
LCEA then charges either the city ratepayers and the sewer signatories, and then that money is returned to the city so the city can make its debt service payments. So that basically it's a revenue neutral.
I understand how that works, but I have another question regarding the signatories. Why the reason why their rates are lower because we had some kind of lease, some kind of contract with some of the
Well,
signatories?
my guess would be, I don't mean to speak for Liesel, but my guess relative to Mr. Hunsinger's question is that Allentown is basically a lot of your water is coming from, you've got to treat the Little Lehigh, you have older lines, I forget, I could be wrong on this, but I think like 18% of the lines in the city are over 100 years old. So that when the lines out in the suburban area are much newer, they're better construction, the materials of construction are less prone to breakage, so your maintenance and upgrade isn't great. They're basically working off wells, which basically just require chlorination. They don't require all the maintenance people, the operators. All of your regulations are regulated by the number of people you serve. Allentown, as I used to joke when I was in charge, if we lost 20,000 people, the requirements that we had would be significantly reduced. We happen to be at the threshold that we're serving in excess of 100,000 people. So we have the most rigorous requirements relative to water suppliers. Those which are in smaller areas have more less restrictive requirements. And again, appreciate that most of the out there, and I don't mean to speak for Liesel, most of them out there are basically wells. Very simple operation. Now, the wells are not all that much different than a home well as compared to what the city complex is. In other words, you've got to have filters, you've got to have settling tanks, you've got to deal with the residuals that you take out of the Lehigh River. In other words, everything you take out of the Little Lehigh River has to be disposed of in a regulated fashion. All that's got to be documented. It gets very expensive.
I'm just thinking that, I know for example, emails is, I think I saw it was 40-something cents per gallon, what is it, 40-something? Yeah, it was in one of the slides there. But it was, emails was about 40 cents, $40 per gallon.
Mayes uses well water.
Versus ours,
Mayes uses
which is
well water.
like 90.
Basically, that in a nutshell, it is a big difference.
There's a big difference because of what?
Well, they use well water. Basically, they basically have wells, which are basically in breaks, you call it a repair main to replace it. So that basically they don't have like the operational staff that the city has to employ.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the contract that we had.
No, the contract is basically, the fees that are in there are set by the contract. Lisa really has no choice in terms of what to charge. She can't charge any more or less than what is in the agreement.
No, I'm saying, the lease agreement that we did, I forget how that was drawn. The signatories, we already had signatories with that lease agreement. Did you follow the same rate, or was there a change in the?
They say the same, like for water, like South Whitehall Township, they takes our water, will pay the same rate as Allentown. Salisbury, basically, they have to charge the same rate. They get a little discount if they buy, they have a put or pay system, as long as they buy a certain amount, the city negotiates.
You're saying they're paying the same rate that we pay, or they're paying the same rate that they have because they were signatory?
No, they basically pay, they are subject to, maybe, let me pay it this way, or put it is a better way to say it. They are subject to the same rate increases as the city of Allentown under the lease.
Yeah, because I mean, the one time, I remember, I think it was, might have been Emmaus, one of the Emmaus or Salisbury, that we had like a 99-year contract with them.
And most of these things, particularly sewage, is into perpetuity.
Well, 99 years.
I can remember, let me just say one anecdote, and I'm not here. When Emma Tropiano was on, we formed Water Resources, and we were basically doing, she basically commented to me and said about, you guys are really doing a great job of protecting our asset. And I said, it's not an asset, it's a liability. You've obligated yourself to treat water and sewage into perpetuity. It's not an asset, it's a liability.
That's all, thank you.
I just have one comment. You and Mr. Hunsicker have to stop hanging around together. Anything else from the group here? If not, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Anyway, for money, he's trying to complain.